Welcome to this breakdown of the video that I posted where I played along with Alejandro during his American Idol audition. I had some fun with that video, but I want to get into what I was doing musically, and also in this breakdown, I'm not only going to talk about how I was playing the music, and of course what I was playing, which is pretty simple, but I want to cover how to mic a cajon, because I know a lot of you are playing cajon or other similar instruments, and I want to show you how I use two mics to get the best possible sound from the cajon, because it's a little bit tricky. So first we're going to cover the music part, and then we'll get into the technical part. And I know this, even if it doesn't apply to what you guys have gear-wise, if you do a job sometime, or if you go play, it's helpful to know how to communicate to a sound person, for example, who's going to set up the mics for you, to be able to communicate what kind of gear might work or what sort of miking techniques might work on a certain instrument. In some cases, a sound person, a house sound person or a studio sound person may know how to mic percussion, but in a lot of cases, people are not that familiar with all the percussion instruments, and they might mic it in a way that doesn't get the best sound. So I want to give you some tools that you can take with you, either to use personally if you're doing your own sound, or to communicate to somebody else who's doing sound for you. All right, so first off, what I was playing in the video is pretty simple. It's a technique or a way of playing that I've talked about before, which is something you want to practice, and something that I do as a hand percussionist, which is to play multiple instruments at the same time. So what I did is I have a shaker. It's a basic tube shaker, and I'm playing the cajon. And I'm just playing, with one hand, my left hand on the cajon, my right hand on the shaker. That way, I can keep a steady rhythm on the shaker and add the kind of bass drum, snare drum, low and high sounds on the cajon. Okay, nothing super fancy, but you want to practice keeping that shaker steady and then doing more and more with your other hand. And at first, if you're, beginning, novice, intermediate, even in your skill level, just keep it simple. And then add syncopation. All right. So this, the breakdown isn't so much about teaching music, but I wanted to just give you that as a little extra. So what am I doing? What was I doing musically in that piece? Why was I playing what I was playing? Well, I was picking up on the way Alejandro was strumming. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't watched that video, watch the one where I'm in front of the picture, not the one where I'm only playing cajon, but where I'm playing cajon and shaker. I'll put a link to that also below this video. That one is public. This video is members only, of course. So what I was doing is picking up on Alejandro's upbeat strumming and trying to match that, but also just to blend with his guitar playing. So when I play with a guitar player or anybody playing live, I want to be supportive, but I don't want to interfere with what they're doing, because I'm in this role as an accompanist. When you're adding music, and especially a singer-songwriter situation like this, and you want to really know how to support the music without being distracting, or without being overpowering, or without detracting from the quality of what that artist is trying to do. So your job is very specific as a percussionist. You're not there to do anything fancy or draw attention to yourself or practice your latest, rhythm that you think is really cool, but that may not fit with the music. So I'm a little more conservative than a lot of people. I think simplicity is key, and I would rather err on the side of playing really simple and basically not really be noticed that much, because I think if you can, it's like a soundtrack to a movie. If you can enhance without drawing a lot of attention, then I think that's doing a great job. So back to the basics. You know, basic shaker groove like I've shown you guys a million times, and then just playing low and high on the cajon, maybe doing some syncopated rhythms. You know, whatever works with what you're hearing the other musicians do, okay? So let's move on and talk about miking. I'm using two mics to mic the cajon. I'm using a dynamic mic down here in the back. So this mic is a dynamic mic, meaning it doesn't need a power source, and it also has the capacity to take a lot of sound pressure. So basically, I'm shoving this thing right in the hole of the cajon, and this mic is there to capture the low end or the bass sounds. It's there to get the low frequency. It's there to get that bass. So let's listen to just that mic for a second. So even if I play the higher notes, I'm going to filter the high end out because I'm actually capturing that with another mic. So if I play low and high, it's going to sound like this. So you can use a SM57, like a mic that would work as a general dynamic mic. This mic is more of a, it's an instrument mic. It's great for drums. It's good for bass drums and low sounds. It can take a lot of sound pressure. It's a dynamic microphone, and it's meant to be put really close to the sound source. It's not the most sensitive mic. People do use these kinds of mics for vocals, but it's for close-up, and it's not something you would record a lead singer for an album on, but it's good for stage. They're rugged. It's a workhorse kind of mic. All right, so that's what's happening down on the sound hole for the cajon. I've got a little mic stand down there, so that's part of the sound. The other part of the sound is being captured through this giant microphone, and this is a little bit overkill for this. This is a nice condenser microphone. This microphone is powered. It's also a tube mic, but that's not really relevant in this particular discussion. But this mic has a large diaphragm. It's got its own power source. It draws power called phantom power. You can look that up. And it's super sensitive. And this mic is really great for high end, the high frequencies. So the shaker and the high snare sounds on the cajon. So what I'm doing here is I've got these two mics. I'm sharing this area, cajon and the shaker, and hopefully balancing the shaker and the high part of the cajon. So I'm doing a little bit of my own mixing here as I'm playing with these two mics. So this is just this microphone now, and I'm going to play the cajon too, and I'm going to cut out the back mic so you can hear what just this mic is picking up. So even though this mic can pick up some of the bass, what I want to do in the mix is actually I'm going to do what is called a shelf or roll-off. I'm going to only use the high frequencies from this mic. Primarily, I'm going to roll off everything from about 200 hertz down. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to pick that up with the low mic, with the bass. And then I'm going to cut everything from the mid 200s on up out of the bass mic. And if you're familiar with speakers, you know, like a stereo speaker, they have what are called crossovers. So when the sound source goes into your speaker, only the high frequencies are played by the small speakers, and only the low frequencies are played by the big speakers. And what I'm doing here is kind of similar, except I'm doing it on the capture side and the mixing side, not the speaker. But you can think of it as a crossover. So if I can show you, I'll show you guys a graphic of that, and you can look it up. It's called a shelf or a roll-off. You can research that if you want to know more about that. all you really need to understand is that I'm using the high frequencies from this mic and the low frequencies from this other mic. And then I'm going to blend them together. So let's go again with hearing just the low mic. Okay, and now just the high mic. And now both together with some frequency manipulation so that I've got clean highs and clean lows. Okay, so I hope this all makes sense. If it doesn't, you can let me know. I'll do my best to answer your questions. But I think whether you're playing just Cajon or you're playing Cajon with other instruments, it would be ideal if you could have a mic for the bass, for the punchy bass parts of the Cajon, if that's the kind of role you're playing. You may not need that, but often if you're playing Cajon and you're the only main hand drummer, you might want to have that low bass. But you don't want to only mic the Cajon from the sound hole, from the back, because that's going to be really woofy. You might get a weird hollow sound. So I think a 2-mic system for the Cajon is the best way to go. Like I said before, you can just have one mic that's a little farther away and get a full spectrum, but it's going to be punchier if you get the bass mic shoved way in that, basically inside the instrument, and then you have another mic for the outside to get the nice high crisp sounds. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. If it is, I guess give this a thumbs up, even though this is a members only video, so it's not about getting all those views and likes so much as it is giving you, the supporters and members of World Drum Club, something a bit more, because I do appreciate you being a member. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another breakdown in the future.